So, have you ever found yourself watching a musician on stage, maybe a guitarist or a vocalist?
Yeah, and they're somehow creating these really rich, layered sounds all by themselves.
Exactly. It's like one person just conjured up a whole orchestra
Yeah.
right there, and you're probably left thinking, how how do they do that?
hmm It looks like magic sometimes.
It really does. Well, today we're going to dive deep into that, into the fascinating world of musical loopers.
Ah, the humble looper pedal, or not so humble sometimes.
Right. We're going to try and uncover their kind of hidden history from these really ingenious analog experiments, way back when.
Tape machines and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All the way to the powerful, sometimes pocket-sized digital tools musicians are using constantly today.
So our mission really is to trace that journey.
That's it. How the simple idea of just repeating a musical phrase, how that blossomed into one of the most, well, transformative instruments artists have.
It's often right there under their foot.
Totally. And what maybe started as these clever, almost like tape tricks, it's actually reshaped how modern music gets made and performed, maybe more than people realize.
It's a pretty surprising history, actually.
So let's unpack this. Where do we even begin?
Well, it's interesting. The core idea, looping itself, it goes way further back than most people think. It kind of began almost by accident
Accidentally. How so?
with what we call tape experiments back in the late 1940s.
Ah, okay. You mean like Kier Schaefer, Music Concrete.
Exactly. Spot on. He was, and this is wild, he was literally physically cutting magnetic tape, splicing it together.
With scissors and glue.
Yeah, basically. Really physically manipulating it to create these repeating soundscapes. Think how tactile that is. Shaping sound with your hands.
And for anyone listening who maybe hasn't heard of Music Concrete, it was pretty groundbreaking, wasn't it? Using recorded sounds as the building block.
Absolutely. Not just musical notes, but like everyday noises, snippets of instruments, all manipulated on tape. It was a whole new way of thinking about composition.
Shows how sometimes limits actually spark creativity.
Totally. And then building on that, you had engineers at the BBC's Radiophonic Workshop in the 50s.
Ah, the Doctor Who people? Well, among
Yeah.
other things.
Right. They were using multiple tape loops, running them on lacquer discs even, for sound effects and electronic dramas. Very experimental stuff.
And that kind of experimentation, it seeped out, didn't it?
It did. It started inspiring these drone sounds, repeating textures in places you wouldn't quite expect, like early rock music, avant-garde stuff.
Okay, so that leads us, I guess, towards the 70s, and something I know people associate with looping, Frippertronics.
Yes. Robert Fripp, the guitarist, and the producer Brian Eno, a legendary team-up.
What exactly was Frippertronics? It sounds complex.
Well, the setup was kind of ingenious in its own way. They rigged two Revox reel-to-reel tape machines together.
Two of them.
Yeah, in this really specific feedback configuration.
Mm.
So the output of one machine fed into the input of the other, which then fed back into the first one.
Ah, okay, so it created this continuous loop, like an echo that kept adding to itself.
Exactly. It allowed for these live, evolving, ambient loops. The sound just kept layering and changing in real time. It was a massive step toward the kind of live looping we see today.
So was it the sound that was revolutionary, or the fact you could do it live?
I'd say both, really. The
Okay.
sound was unique, very ethereal, constantly shifting, but the method was key. It showed you could build these complex soundscapes right there on stage.
Without having to pre-record everything.
Precisely. And that desire, that sort of yearning for real-time repetition, it pushed musicians to get creative with gear they already had, like echo units.
Right, right. Tape echo machines from the 60s and 70s. They weren't just for slapback anymore, were they?
Not for the adventurous players, no. Think of someone like, say, David Gilmour from Pink Floyd.
Okay, yeah. What was he doing?
Well, he'd use something like an Echoplex EP2 or EP3.
Mm.
These units had a setting for, like, infinite repeats. And he and others would literally hold down the record head mechanism, physically clamp it down onto the tape as it was moving.
Whoa, so forcing it into a tiny, continuous loop right there.
Exactly. It created these really rough, kind of gritty, live tape loops on the spot. It's an amazing example of just making do, using the limitations.
That drive to loop was clearly there long before dedicated pedals.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You saw similar things with other units like the WEMM Copycat or the Benson Echarech. Guitarists would push the feedback way up, sometimes physically mess with the tape heads.
Kind of to force looped phrases out of them.
Yeah. They were basically inventing the function because they needed it, which makes you wonder, why did it take so long for a proper looper pedal?
That's a good question. I guess the technology just needed to catch up. Miniaturization, digital memory.
Exactly, and that really happened in the 1990s. That's when we see the birth of the dedicated Stompbox looper, the thing you could actually put on your pedal board.
And this is where it starts getting really accessible,
Yeah,
right?
totally. The big breakthrough, the one people often point to, was Greg Hughes's Boomerang Phrase Sampler. Came out around 1998.
Ah, the boomerang.
Okay.
Okay. What made it so special?
Well, it was arguably the first commercially successful floor-based looper, designed for musicians to use with their feet, live.
And it had the key stuff.
Yeah, it had one stereo track, but crucially, unlimited overdubs. So you could layer and layer. It also had Undorito, which is huge,
Oh, yeah. Essential.
and tap tempo control. Suddenly, guitarists, or anyone really, could become this sort of one-person orchestra.
That's a huge shift for a solo performer.
Massive. But then, what really took looping mainstream, put it on seemingly every pedal board, that was probably Roland's entry.
You mean the Boss RC20, the loop station?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Came out in 2001. It wasn't necessarily the most feature-packed, maybe around 20 seconds of stereo sampling time.
Which sounds tiny now, but was decent then.
Right, but it had an onboard rhythm guide, which was useful, and most importantly, it was super user-friendly. Really simple controls.
Easy to just stomp on and go.
Exactly. Its ease of use just cemented the looper's place. It wasn't just for experimental guys anymore. It was for everyone,
But competition heats up fast in the pedal world.
always. Just a couple of years later, 2003, Digitech brought out their Jamman.
Ah, yeah, the Jamman. Another classic name.
And it basically matched the RC20's main functions, but added some neat extras, like a stereo O input, so you could plug in a phone or MP3 player and jam along.
Handy for practice.
Yeah, and an optional foot switch to recall presets easily. It just showed how quickly the market was moving, adding features musicians were asking for.
So we've got these established floor units. What happens next? Things start shrinking.
They really do. That brings us to what you could call the mini looper revolution. Late 2000s, early 2010s. Size suddenly became a big selling point.
Pedalboard real estate is always at a premium.
Exactly. And in 2010, TC Electronic dropped the Ditto Looper. And that thing was, well, tiny.
Just one knob, right?
Pretty much. A single knob, true bypass, super
Yeah.
simple. But it still offered 5 minutes of stereo looping time in this minuscule box.
Wow, 5 minutes is plenty for most ideas.
Right. And the philosophy was just record, overdub, play. That's it. By stripping it down like that, they made looping incredibly accessible to any player, even total technophobes.
It was kind of like the iPhone moment for loopers, maybe? Simple, intuitive, powerful enough.
That's a great way to put it. It showed simplicity wasn't a lack of features, it was a feature in itself.
But could you still get decent capacity in those small boxes?
Oh yeah, just 2 years later, 2012, Electro Harmonics released the 360 Nano.
EHX always jumps in.
And this thing packed 360 seconds, that's 6 minutes of stereo loop time, and it had preset storage, still in a mini pedal format.
So the tech was definitely keeping up power in small packages.
The race was on. Make them powerful, but make them small.
Okay, so we've got the simple small loopers becoming huge, but did things also go the other way, like more complex, powerful loopers?
Absolutely. While the mini revolution was happening, there was a parallel evolution towards much more advanced units, turning the looper into a genuine compositional tool, a workstation almost.
Like what kind of features are we talking?
Well, think about the Boss RC300, which actually came out a bit earlier, around 2007, and then the RC505, the tabletop one, in 2013.
The 505 is huge with vocalists and beatboxers, isn't it?
Exactly. The RC300 gave you 3 independent stereo tracks. The RC505 gave you 5.
5 loops at once.
Yeah, and crucially, each track had its own level control, its own effects controls. You could treat each loop almost like a separate track in a mixer.
So you're really building arrangements on the fly.
Totally. It transformed looping from just repeating a phrase into a full-blown compositional workstation, like carrying a mini studio.
Were there other players in that high-end space?
Oh yeah, you had boutique options starting to emerge too, like the Pigtronics Infinity series.
What was their angle?
Super high fidelity, really tight clocking so the loop stayed perfectly in time, MIDI sync capabilities.
MIDI sync is important for integrating with other gear, drum machines, synths.
Definitely. And they often had things like onboard filtering for each loop, more sound shaping control.
And looping started appearing inside other pedals too, right? Not just dedicated units.
That's a key point. It became almost a standard feature. Think about the Line 6 DL4 delay modeler, a classic pedal.
Yeah.
Even early on, it had a pretty decent looper built in, almost as a bonus.
People bought it just for the looper sometime.
They did. And now, you look at modern multi-effects units, like the Line 6 Helix or others, They have incredibly powerful looping engines integrated right alongside all the amp modeling and effects. It shows how essential looping has become.
It's just expected now.
Pretty much. Which brings us to modern innovations. It's not just about tracks and time anymore. It's about connectivity.
How so? Like connecting to computers.
Yeah, and even wirelessly. Think about Bluetooth-enabled loopers. There are models from TC Electronic, like the Ditto X4, or Boss with the RC10R.
What does Bluetooth let you do?
It lets you transfer your loops wirelessly to your phone or tablet, for backup, or even for basic editing sometimes. It blurs the lines between practice, performance, and studio work.
That's pretty convenient. No more just losing that great idea you looped.
Exactly. And beyond Bluetooth, you've got loopers that integrate even more tightly with studio setups. Networked loopers, USB connections.
So you can record directly into your DAW, your computer software.
Yeah, directly. Or import and export WAV files. Load backing tracks into the looper. Export your live loops for further work. Or some can even be triggered via MIDI commands or complex foot switch scripts.
So it really bridges that gap between jamming live and producing a finished track.
It makes the whole creative process much more fluid, much less compartmentalized.
And just looking around now, the variety is huge. You see tiny one-button loopers on some boards.
Just for grabbing a quick idea.
And then these massive multi-pedal stations on others, with expression pedals controlling loop levels or effects.
Integrated banks, complex switching. There's really a looper design for almost any need or workflow you can imagine.
It's incredible how far it's come from cutting tape.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Which kind of raises the question, beyond the tech itself, what's the cultural impact been? How has it really changed things for artists and audiences?
Well, you have to talk about KT Tunstall, right? Her big hit, Black Horse and the Cherry Tree, back in 2004.
Oh yeah, the performance on Jules Holland. Iconic.
Exactly. She built that entire song live on TV using a boomerang looper, guitar, vocals, percussion on the guitar body.
Layering it all up piece by piece.
For a lot of people watching, that was maybe the first time they saw live looping used to build a whole pop song arrangement on such a big stage. It wasn't just some weird experimental thing anymore.
It proves its viability in the mainstream. And then if you're talking modern looping, you have to mention Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, he's kind of the modern looping superstar, isn't he?
Absolutely. He uses multiple loopers, often the Boss RC30 or the RC505 tabletop unit.
Building everything live.
Everything. Drums by beatboxing or hitting his guitar, bass lines, chords, melodies, harmonies, all built in real time, just with his guitar and his voice. He's completely redefined what a solo performance can look and sound like.
It's pretty staggering to watch. But it's not just pop stars, is it?
Not at all. Loopers are totally essential in other genres too. Think about ambient music, experimental stuff. Artists like Tom Misch sometimes uses them. Lots of ambient players.
Creating those evolving textures, drones that shift over long periods.
Exactly. It allows for a whole different compositional approach, building soundscapes that breathe and change organically.
And what's really interesting is how it's jumped beyond guitars.
That's a huge point. Initially, it was very guitar-focused technology, but now vocalists, beatboxers, they've embraced it massively.
Like Reggie Watts or Beardy Man.
Perfect examples. They use loopers, often those tabletop RC505s, to do incredible live sampling, beat making, creating these complex vocal symphonies just with their mouths and a microphone.
Pushing the boundaries of what you can even do live.
Totally. It really shows the versatility. What started as a tool for maybe guitar practice became this cross-genre performance powerhouse, turning the human voice into a whole band.
So when you wrap it all up, it's quite a journey, isn't it?
It really is. From Schaefer messing with tape and scissors.
Yeah, the BBC Radiophonic Workshop, Gilmore holding down a tape head.
To the first boomerangs and Boss loop stations, making it accessible.
The mini Ditto changing the game with simplicity.
And now these incredibly advanced multi-track workstations that connect to everything.
It feels like loopers have genuinely fundamentally changed how musicians write, how they perform.
And how they connect with audiences, too, I think.
Yeah.
There's something compelling about seeing music built layer by layer right in front of you.
It's democratized complex layering for the solo artist in a huge way.
Definitely.
So I guess the takeaway is this technology, it really does turn almost any gig, any performance into a potential multi-layered soundscape.
The potential's huge.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about the creative possibilities still out there and what this means for the future of how we experience live music.